Have you ever played a game that made you rethink the world around you? A game whose world was so realized that you never questioned its authenticity. Maybe so much, it affects your real life. This happened to me. I was heading out to grab some groceries, but as I opened the front door, I noticed it was raining. And for one split second, I said to myself, it's too dangerous to go out in the rain. This is a really weird, dumb, stupid, and ominous thought. But there was a genuine reason that I had that life or death instinct reaction. And it's because I've been trying to finish a game called Death Stranding, a game about delivering packages to people. One of the mechanics in Death Stranding is timefall. Whenever it begins to rain, the water droplets will escalate the aging process of whatever it touches. Plants will begin to grow and decay, the containers of the packages you need to deliver start to rust, and even humans who are unfortunate to feel its touch will start to age. So porters, as they travel out in the timefall, must be wary of how long it may last and whether they can make it through the storm as other things lay in wait in the rain. This one game's world and circumstances are so ingrained in the mechanics of the game that as I continue to play it, my reaction to seeing rain is raw and genuine. So much that when I see that same context in the real world, I almost second guess the results of what's going to happen to me. Games are a medium that can let us not only see, but walk around in the shoes of someone who lives in a world so unlike our own that we can forget these worlds are man-made. While many coming out today are fun and stunning to look at, very few can capture an essence of a world that feels alive as I walk through it. Through some of my favorites as a kid and many you may have played, I want to show you how some of these games do this. When a game uses its world and the story that it's set in to forge a reality so convincing it feels alive even when you are idle. When the screen melts away and you forget that these are just lines of code, but instead something much more real. When I say real, I mean that with some commas, because the reality in games changes depending on that game's mechanical context and how it presents it, meaning a game that can feel alive whether it looks realistic or not. A pixelated block game's world can feel as real as the highly detailed story-driven AAA game. I'm not talking about what looks real, I'm talking about what feels real. It's the moments or the succession of moments where a game feels like there is something alive inside of it unseen either until you notice it or it reveals itself. A virtual place that is working on its own kind of logic. Maybe a better word to replace the feeling of reality is authentic. Everything happening in the game is happening for a reason you are or are not aware of. There are a few tricks games can use to make us feel its authenticity. One trick is something that you would have noticed any time growing up and playing any kind of game, and that is how the game presents its world to us. The kind of magic that exists in a snowy mountain, the sounds of a forest, or the details of a dense city. So let's look at one. The Jak trilogy are incredible games, some my favorites, but Jak 2 is the game that introduces a new kind of gameplay experience to the series. The game takes place in the cyberpunk-inspired Haven City, an enclosed metropolis full of hover vehicles and guards who operate on the orders of the tyrannical Baron Praxis. When we first gain control of Jak, we are escaping from a prison. And just by taking a look around, the visual density of the cells tells us all we need to know of the incarceration Jak experienced. The foul stench filtering into the air, the quiet hum of the environment cold and brutal. The cells as they move across the ceiling indicate the constant flux of prisoners. After escaping through the sewer system of the fortress, we are free, but as we are told by the first person we meet, we aren't as free as we think.
Inside a cell or inside the city, walls surround us both. We are all his prisoners.
Cyberpunk is more than just flying car and giant digital women who I think she likes me, dude. I'm pretty sure. Jak 2 is shown through a very obvious and intentional lens of authoritarian government and the police also being the military under one person's command. This is what the genre tells us of society's future if power in corporations or the military remains unchecked. You walk the streets of the slums and can feel oppression baked into how the people walk and the poorly constructed buildings that they must live in to survive. Barrels alight for warmth, and houses sitting atop civilian-made bridges that cover the lake near a city wall starved for fresh water. As you continue through the game, you can find that different districts of the city fare better or worse depending on their function. The port is open and full of shops that are loyal to the Baron, but also extremely corrupt. The farming district is lush and green, producing food for the elite of the city and using vast amounts of clean water sprinkled into the air over the crops, when it is just denied to the poor. Districts are gated with checkpoints that stop civilians from accessing them for a number of reasons. For gameplay, it makes sense because the player can feel they are accessing new parts of the map as they progress through the story, but for the civilians, they cannot gain these security passes through legal means just like us. At the center of this city, just by looking up from any district or levels outside of the city walls, is the palace where the Baron resides, attached to 4 towers that level its weight with engineering. It reminds me a lot of other dystopian towers or cities like Zalem from Alita Battle Angel. The game is showing these environments to convey a message to the player of how Haven City works, and as you play, your impact on it, or the story's impact on you, can be noticed. While these examples have in-universe functions, the game never forsakes fun in exchange for realism. There's a mission in Act 1 to infiltrate the palace, and to get up there, you have to take an elevator housed in one of the palace's support towers. Upon riding up the elevator, the door opens onto the beam, and what awaits is a series of platforming obstacles. TNT crates, a rotating series of machine guns, and a bunch of electric blades. I can only imagine the insane tradie that was hired to build all this. I wanna have a drink with that guy. That guy sounds chill. It doesn't make much real sense, but in the context of the game and the Baron, it's authentic to his paranoid last resort personality. He would not want anyone to be able to reach him via any means. This extends to the voices you hear as you traverse through the city, the Crimson Guard. They're the only people you'll hear as you walk around, talking to each other over the radio, and the audio projectors that blare the propaganda straight from the Baron's mouth. If you listen long enough in front of one, he even tries to talk to Jack directly.
Don't try to make a fool out of me, Jack. Just because I haven't killed you yet, doesn't mean I'm not on to you. The citizens of this city worship me because I offer them safety. All I ask in return is for their lives. I'll find you, and when I do, you'll wish you died in prison.
Environments, or the sets of a game, can convince us of the circumstances we are in and feel as though if we never turned on the game, its world would keep on moving without us, even if we never visit again. But what happens when the environment begins to react to us? Borderlands 2 does this in a similar way. It's a game where you hunt for a fabled treasure called the Vault on planet Pandora. A world so dangerous, the joke is that anything and everyone is mentally ill and will try and kill you, even its writing. The villain, Handsome Jack, is the very likely mentally ill CEO of a corporation called Hyperion, whose headquarters is a spaceship looming over the planet. Besides calling you to torment you, taunt you, or pay you to take your own life, the space station he sits on is just there, staring at you, always watching whatever it is you may be doing, ever present. While out on main missions, Handsome Jack will shoot down legions of his bots to fight you and halt your progress. This backdrop symbol of your antagonist is now an active participant in the gameplay in front of you, even seeing it shoot at the home base sanctuary when you first arrive. Like the Timefall and Death Stranding, you don't notice it until you hear it. These environments, whether they are the small details or the loud obvious ones falling from the sky, are what make their worlds feel real and constantly fluid, ever moving in a state of flux. If you were to turn off the game, the citizens would still be walking. The rain would continue to move, and in Borderlands things would continue to kill each other and mentally degrade each other. But what if a game did the opposite? Can a video game world still feel real, authentic, and alive, even if the world it's showing is dead? You are in a plane crash. There are no survivors but you. The only place where you can find hope of survival is a lighthouse shining against a pitch black night. With nothing else to do, you enter. Inside there is a statue of a man's face, banners, visual iconography, and the song By the Sea playing from what looks like a submarine downstairs. Out of necessity or curiosity you enter, and it takes you deep down into the abyss. As you plunge further into the Atlantic Ocean, you watch a little slideshow, and upon hitting the sea floor, the sphere reveals a secret no one on the surface knew about. Rapture. A city at the bottom of the ocean. BioShock is a beautiful game that portrays an amazing world that is currently not going through a beautiful time. Despite the circumstances that led to Rapture's current state, it is a backdrop to a game that feeds the player's curiosity with more knowledge about what kind of people had moved here. What kind of person built this place, and for what reasons? What were the logistics, the societal complications, and of course, the events that resulted in its current state? To answer some of those, the city was built by a man called Andrew Ryan, who wanted to escape the government constraints and ideologies of all countries on the surface. In a modern context, he's a very rich Redditor. His reasoning is to escape all that Rapture had to be at the bottom of the ocean because it could not exist anywhere else. This is the info you learn from audio logs of Ryan, but also from the very unique and ordinary individuals who lived in Rapture. The very first you will likely listen to is one by Diane McClintock. You find this audio log at a now almost destroyed restaurant called The Cashmere, and if you listen to it while looking around, you might just understand what happened.
Another New Year's, another night alone. I'm out and you're stuck in Hephaestus, working. Imagine my surprise. I guess I'll have another drink. Here's a toast to Diane McClintock, silliest girl in Rapture. Silly enough to fall in love with Andrew Ryan. Silly enough. What happened? I'm bleeding. Oh God. What's happening?
This was a bustling restaurant full of partygoers here to celebrate another year in Rapture, and as the clock struck midnight, only violence awaited them. That's why there are decorations still up, why the balcony is damaged, why the water has begun to seep into the city. Whatever happened to Rapture did not happen that long ago, as the infrastructure of the city still works, but all the people who are still sane are gone. All that's left are those trying to survive on the resources that still linger. These audio logs, besides communication with other characters who are alive, will be your primary vehicle for storytelling, and they are what makes Rapture feel like a house full of messages as to what happened. A city with an open door, a few lights on, and a record player still turning. Each location has audio logs sprinkled about that reveal secrets for both gameplay and story. For gameplay, it can be the code to a safe that houses money and resources, but some just reveal who lived there, sometimes before the fall, after it, or during. One of my favorite sections is early in the game called the Medical Pavilion, where you need to find a guy called Dr. Steinman. Upon entering his practice, you see the horrific murals of failed plastic surgery, and scoured everywhere are audio logs of his obsession in creating true beauty through the new substance called Adam.
Adam presents new problems for the professional. As your tools improve, so do your standards. There was a time I was happy enough to take off a wart or two, or turn a real circus freak into something you can show in the daylight, but that was then, when we took what we got. But with Adam, the flesh becomes clay. What excuse do we have not to sculpt and sculpt and sculpt until the job is done?
These audio logs, paired with the visual design of the levels of BioShock, highlights how people lived, what advertisements and propaganda were exposed to the population. Even some of these story elements give realistic and in-universe explanations as to how Rapture is scientifically possible. In order to actually supply oxygen to Rapture, there is a floor that handles producing trees which help Rapture's citizens breathe, along with many other techniques. Both of BioShock's sequels utilize this same visual design and gameplay principle to help us understand what is happening. In BioShock 2, many more years have passed and Rapture is slowly succumbing to the decay of the deep sea. Barnacles and sea mold is creeping into the environments. Lights barely work. You discover new parts of the city that indicate businesses and infrastructure that was dismissed for flashier technology. While these games are semi-linear, the world of the narrative can feel dense. Like you could explore every part of it down to its last apartment and shop, waking up the denizens who still reside here. The forgotten dream city is now awake in the presence of someone it did not expect. You. Unlike other worlds that feel constantly moving, Rapture is a world that is dormant, finally brought alive once the player engages with it and begins to see what this city was and what it was becoming. Sometimes games can only show how fleshed out their worlds are if the player decides to directly dive into it. Instead of being spoon-fed the baby food of lore, the player could instead jump in themselves into the baby food pool of lore. It's like a pool of baby food. That's the analogy. People who play Dark Souls, they love to dive in. Dark Souls players are the ultimate lore baby food divers. They are willing to jump into any pool of baby food. They love it. They want to hop in there with the other people. They want to splash around, just throw the baby food at each other. Some of them try and like compete against each other. They'll like swim to the bottom of the baby food pool and see who can touch the bottom first, and then they swim back up, and then it gets in their mouths and their eyes, and they're just like chugging it down as they swim up, and then they get out of the pool and you go, "You want a towel?" And they just shake off the baby food like a dog, like an animal, you sickos! Cool game though. But like BioShock, the world of Dark Souls is only revealed in detail if you do that thing that possibly many people are forgetting how to do. Read. Items, weapons, and consumables have their own narrative of which they are attached to, and even affect how one is treated or seen based on what you wear or use in battle. The map goes from a peak down into the earth itself, and the beings you meet along the way are revealed to you through engaging with the text. You can get the story you are looking for if you decide to actually look for it. The set pieces are the clues as to why you wish to know. Why is there a giant wolf guarding a grave? Why is this lady so fucking bussin'? Why does the sock puppet not want me to put log back on the fire? A dormant world where these characters lie in wait as someone arrives to rouse them from their deep slumber. The craft it takes to make these worlds detailed, fun, and also interesting enough to want to interact with it is just, it's fucking insane. You are not in control of mediums like a film or a novel, even though they can house similar worlds. Whereas a game must emphasize these things through just existing. Obviously, games utilize techniques from other mediums, but when you are learning something about the world just by existing in it, interacting with it, or observing it, you can find an all new experience where the screen melts away and you get lost in something that feels real and endless. We have so far looked at games that present worlds that make you want to interact with, but also feel absorbed in. Whether feeling immersed by how it evokes its story and gameplay through the environment, or how it beckons you to ask more of it. But again, I have to ask, what happens if we do the opposite? What if the game knows that you exist within it, and instead tries to interact with you? Specifically, you and your actions. There's this little game called Skyrim, and it's kind of big, but something that I remember from my time playing it was how my choices and actions on the game made a direct impact on the world. As you progress through the main quest or others, and you're traveling the world on foot instead of just teleporting, you'll find that there are certain things that can happen. Random events that seemingly make the world feel alive. Bandits on the road are just waiting to ambush you, but amongst your attackers to be can be someone like this, an assassin sent from the Dark Brotherhood. If you manage to kill your attacker and read the note left on them, it tells you how important that this contract is and that failure is not an option. Through your adventures, the game has taken certain note of triggers from your actions or quests, some of which you could upset a character in the world who then wants to pay for the death of you. By doing this one random act and having the player see the name assassin and a note talking about them, the game acknowledges the player. We see you. We know you are out there doing things, and there are maybe more assassins coming. There are other triggers like this as you play the game. Funny enough, involving the Dark Brotherhood again. Dude, the fucking mercenary business is booming. When you kill a character that was meant for an actual assassin, you can walk around the world shouting at people as you normally do, and then receive a letter from an anonymous sender, which just says, "We know." The game is acknowledging that the player has made choices and therefore must make the characters within its world react to it. Games are interactive, and when they react to you, they feel all the more alive. The choices you make with characters, the words you say, and the actions you take are all noticed by the game itself, possibly affecting how you feel about your choices, maybe your own thought process that led to those choices, or "I like to kill NPCs, smiley face." Part of everything I've talked about are moments of a game whose world remains solely within the confines of the screen and the context of the world. Yet some games try to affect you beyond that square box that is the screen. What if some games are so real, so alive, so full of characters that feel real, that they then can affect you in the real world? Metal Gear Solid is an action game that has you stealthing through the impenetrable fortress of Shadow Moses, even though you have one-on-one fights with other bosses alerting the fortress every single time. But besides that, one of these iconic bosses is Psycho Mantis, a telekinetic mastermind and possible BDSM fan. When he first meets you, he wants to show you his collection, but also the powers he possesses. Instead of flinging a chair at a wall in a cutscene like a League player who just can't help but int, he addresses the player directly.
Put your controller on the floor. Put it down as flat as you can. That's good. Now I will move your controller by the power of my will alone. What do you think now? Can you feel my power now?
If you have a memory card of other notable PlayStation games, Psycho Mantis will even list them, saying what kind of games you seem to like. As the fight progresses, Mantis will turn the TV to another channel, notably the Hideo channel, simulating how people would accidentally change the channel on a CRT TV. And I know that I don't have to mention this, but I do, because some of you watching are probably too fucking young to know that TVs look like this, you literal child. This basically implies Mantis is so powerful he can flip the channels and stop you from fighting him, even to the point that unless you put the controller into the other port, he will dodge everything thrown at him. This wouldn't have been done without the weird, abstract, demented, but also charming mind of Hideo Kojima. But it's also not possible without the player themselves interacting with the game via other means than just pressing the buttons on the controller. Switching your controller port and having the game affect aspects of your reality through changing the channel and making your controller move like a cheap vibrator. All of this is what I mean when the game interacts back. It's as if the screen between you and the game is thinner than you realize. It's no wonder Kojima's latest franchise made me question whether or not Rain would kill me, but he also never stopped doing this in any game he directed, whether it was a nod to the fact that the characters know they are in a game, or having you literally look on the back of your Metal Gear Solid game case to find a code that progressed the story. These weird workarounds suddenly make the game of Metal Gear Solid and its sequels an interactive experience that goes beyond you and the controller. It's as if this is happening right now. Mantis is moving the controller. Time is running out until I put in that code at the back of the CD case. I need to look at the butts of these soldier men until I find the female. The last game I want to talk about to end this video of pixelated worlds was Red Dead Redemption 2, one of my favorite games of all time. Not just for its very meticulous on-rail story missions that make you feel or its incredible character study of Arthur, both amazingly expressed through the gameplay and its narrative, but because of how it represents the realism of its world to a degree that does all the things I've mentioned in this video kind of combined into one singular game, especially when you could miss random encounters out on the road. Yet I won't discuss Red Dead 2 to end this video, but instead, a game that I've been playing recently that has done something that I haven't had a game do in a while. It asked of me something that games nowadays are honestly too scared to ask, mostly because studios will feel that the player will get bored or frustrated if they try and implement it. But if done well, and if the player truly engages with it, it results in something really special. Player-driven direction. Modern gaming leans heavily on mechanics to indicate where you need to go. Pair that with cutscenes that hint at a second time, whether that is a side quest or a main quest. I'm talking about markers on a map or a compass, a laundry list of quests and how to complete them, even a singular line that shows you the correct road to take, and sometimes a auto-run mechanic to take you there. These are not bad game design choices. In some of these games, they're extremely necessary, and for games that house a huge amount of quests, it's ideal to help keep track of it all. But one of the things that these visual design elements can actually take away is the act and joy of exploring the world around you without a descriptive nod to do so. So what kind of game could do something like this? Retain a consistent open world game that encourages exploration in both side quests and main, that rewards the player for actively searching for your goal and having you interact with the denizens of this fantasy realm. What would that game be? Dragon Quest VIII: Journey of the Cursed King is a standard JRPG made for the PlayStation 2, and I fucking love it. The story revolves around a quest to find a villainous jester named Dulmagus who has cursed the kingdom of Trodain and its royalty. While the game holds your hand at first, you slowly get your bearings through expository cutscenes. After the first dungeon is complete, the game begins to open up larger in scope both gameplay and narrative. But as you travel the world in search of this society-based dude with a staff, you begin to understand that when you enter a town, there is not really a cinematic guide to what to do next, but instead, the game lets you interact with everyday people and learn what you can from them. Sometimes they will straight up tell you something useless like, "Hey, I lost my ring and the fortune teller says if I get it again, it won't fit on my fat finger. What a dick." Or they'll say, "Hey, did you notice there's this hut atop the waterfall south of town? I wonder who lives there. Geez, I'm poor." And then if you're lucky, you'll finally get a character mention that they saw a jester walk across the ocean from their window, or that they overheard a jester say something about someone's recent death. There is so much I love about this game, but the way in which the narrative is layered as this globe-trotting chase to stop evil allows us the narrative excuse to explore and learn all that we can from anyone who will talk to us. When you first board a ship to another continent, some characters on that ship mention how odd it is that there's a castle in the distance on a tiny island. You can reach this island and find out who lives here and for what gameplay reason you could gain from visiting, which there is one, but also it's completely optional to find. By talking to both the characters in towns and your own party members, you gain a sense of what to do next, but this involves engaging with the game and exploring this vast world that begs you to do so. This shines in one of my favorite parts of the main story, when you learn that Dulmagus has Jesus walked his way across the ocean to the other continent. You need a ship of your own to go after him, and there is a legend of a magic ship that lays in the middle of a wasteland enclave. You check it out and it's there, it's stuck. But a hop, skip and a jump back to the aforementioned cursed castle, you try to find a book that tells you how to get it running again. Upon failure, you do meet a magical Vipe harp guy called Ishwari, who you've met from a previous quest. He says if you bring him a stronger harp, he can fix the ship and set it onto the sea. The catch is, he does not know where it is, but senses that it is in a place we have visited before on our journey. That is all you have to go on. Some of your party highlights where maybe you should start looking. Thanks, Angelo, appreciate that, buddy. But again, it is up to the player, you, to engage and choose your own path of where you think it is. Search wells, break pots, loot the cupboard of the lowly common people to find items and materials you can use in gameplay alchemy and make a bunny suit for Jessica. This stuff happens in side quests all the time. Remember the lady with the ring? Well, yeah, I found it and I took it back to her. The time I learned she had lost her ring was in the first 15 minutes of the game in the very first town. I found that ring 15 hours later, but only knew it was hers from the description. By talking to every citizen, I've learned new alchemy recipes, battle strats, sightings of Dulmagus. I've even gotten narrative teasers or unintentional foreshadowing that's on a One Piece level. This slime said his brother works in a casino. Was that the casino that I just spent 3 hours in playing bingo just to get enough tokens to purchase this stupid item so I can synthesize those bunny ears to finish Jessica's bunny outfit? You bet it was! And I did! Help me. And all of this is completely missable. This entire game spawned from a quest for a villain you constantly hear murmurs about, ever chasing your antagonist until you reach him. Dragon Quest VIII, along with a lot of these other games, through their environment, the gameplay, the story, and its context of all three can create this feeling that the barrier between you and the game is thinner than paper. That while you are just playing a file that's burned on a disc, you are interacting with a world that operates on its own logic well enough that you are surprised at its ability to do so, even when you don't notice it. Games have always been the medium that fully enrapture me in a world like other mediums, but not to the same extent or ability. It's to immerse us in a world that cannot exist on our own, or it's one that did exist, or does exist, but we can experience it in a different way, like stepping back through time or in someone else's shoes. The last and more depressing answer, I think, for the hardcore gamers is that these are worlds in which we can seek solace, where we both matter a lot to it and appreciate the acknowledgement of the world itself. So few people will be acknowledged by the world around them in a way like being the Dragonborn is, echoing this idealistic power fantasy escapism of video games, something I think we're all a little guilty of when we play games. But that's not the most satisfying conclusion of this video to me. That these games and how they surround our senses with their worlds is all for the benefit of rejecting the real one. That we know everything that is to be found outside our doorstep, so what's the point in venturing? What I've found upon revisiting some of these games is that while I knew they excelled in the areas of world building or visual storytelling I have already mentioned, the best curiosities I discovered are made as I get older, when I return and the games themselves surprise me again with how their worlds still have secrets and realism and exposition I never noticed before because I thought I saw everything. Much like people who want to escape the real world feel about it. There are no new secrets or new places to discover out there, so nothing else will surprise you. But I don't think that's true. Because like these games and their tiny universes housed inside a file, one can find something amazing about our own world through the art we experience, but also from those experiences, seek new discoveries. The same way we play these games with lifelike worlds only to find a new detail we never noticed before, because we were too busy doing something else. We were too busy leaving to get groceries to notice the rain in any other way besides the thought of, what would it really be like to get those groceries and try not to age rapidly? Maybe you decide to read Ayn Rand because of how it influenced the creation of BioShock, discovering authors and literature you didn't know had already existed in the world you currently live in. To explore it like you do in these games, maybe look up and notice something different about your city or the niche communities housed inside of it. I take the longer drive home just to see parts of the city I don't usually get to see. What's happening, what's new, what's going on around me. Perhaps I will, like in these games, find a new place I didn't know about, a new cafe to try, a new event that I didn't know was happening. Like in Dragon Quest, venture around your world, be curious, and it may reward you. Go inside people's houses.
So what are you doing?
Look through their closets.
These are my belongings.
Smash their pots.
Stop breaking my pods.
Okay, but don't do that, but you get what I mean, right? Art can be this distillation of the things we experience in our lives, reflected back to us so that we can re-experience them and inform our own life through it. And like how real these worlds feel, we wouldn't have the context of what is realistic if we didn't have the experiences of our own lives in which to put into them. While I love fictional worlds and have admittedly poured hours over learning about them and have now made a video about a bunch of fictional ones and how good they are, I can't help but feel we don't give our own reality enough credit, and that it deserves in which these other worlds wouldn't exist without it. This sounds a bit like I'm saying, go outside and experience the world as well as enjoy art. And yeah, I guess I am. Because your reality is all you have. And these ones, these experiences, these worlds, these cosmic realities housed inside a file wouldn't feel as realistic or lifelike if you didn't have the experiences of your own. Have a good one. Thank you so much for watching and making it to the end of the video. If you really enjoyed it, feel free to give it a like, subscribe, or comment below what you think of any video game worlds you feel like I should have included in this video, or why you think they're really authentic. I also just want to say a massive thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it, and you can catch some more stuff coming out over there where I'll talk about some movies and books and other stuff that I've been reading / watching. I'm currently nearly 40 chapters away from catching up to One Piece, and I feel like I just need to rant about all the things I'm thinking about. But I'm not going to watch any theory videos because I'm not going to be that man, and that's who I am now. Regardless, if you want to see more stuff like that, you can go over to the Patreon, where you can support the channel for just a single Australian dollar, which I think is at least 500 rubles over in Portugal. I'm pretty sure I made that up. I'll appreciate it, and you can get your name here on screen as well. So thank you to the people who support me over there. Regardless, thank you for watching, and if you want to just talk more stuff like this, there's a Discord down below that you can join, where you can talk about all the different things you like about games, art, or just interesting things you find. So you'll find me over there as well. This video was a whirlwind to make as well. My computer passed away 2 weeks ago and had to resurrect it from the dead. Was able to retain every single file except the project itself in the timeline. So I had everything, had all the footage still, I just had to put it all back to where it was. You might be asking, did you have backups? No, why would you think I had backups, man? Look at me. I grew a beard. Thank you to everyone who poured your hearts out to me digitally through text and how I'll get through this. Big shout out to the dude who told me how to fix this yesterday. You're a bit late, but let's just hope you get there next time. The situation wasn't dire, but you know what? It could have been worse, and you could have stopped this, and I want you to live with that. Regardless of all that, thank you again for watching and making it to the end. I really do appreciate it. But that's all from me. My name's Mugen. As always, have a good one.